Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I am going to be playing a little heads-up match against a friend from my poker club. Just going to be doing some live commentary, maybe like a little bit of play and explain. The stakes are 50 and L heads up, so it's pretty chill. Just trying to get some reps in of heads up. I'm by no means like any heads up expert or maybe like really even good at heads up compared to people who take it a bit more seriously. So I'll definitely be making a lot of mistakes. I'm going to try and analyze everything after. While I play, I might be making some exploits that I might not talk about directly or explain per se, just because it might not be super relevant in the moment to talk about. But we'll definitely be reviewing all these hands, with my opponent after the session. And I also might not talk explicitly about a bunch of like autopilot type spots, like whatever pre-flops stuff. Range C bets and things like that. But yeah, I'm definitely going to try and talk about some of the most interesting spots. So without further ado, let's just jump in. All right, let's get started. All right, so I'm just going to put up the fives over here. King, queen. Maybe I will turn on the audio, but keep it lower. So let's turn that on. Just make it a little bit quieter. Face a small 3-bet over here. Obviously can't fold fives. The jack 8-6. I think you could get away with a better check. No spade. I'm going to check this time. We will c-bet on this texture. Or not c-bet. We will probe in position after facing a check. I think fives can benefit from a little bit of protection. It's a little strange not to face a c-bet on king deuce deuce specifically. Here on this turn, I'm going to be using a larger size, so I'm going to size up to something like this. Back over here on the 6, I think our hand wants to check back. Over here, we make the nuts. We have the super nuts as well, meaning any queen is a straight, but we do have the king queen. Trying to think if we maybe use a size like half pot with our super nuts, intending to stack a queen that will raise us. Over here, we're going to check back. It's a pretty bad run out. We lose the sevens. Over here, let's go something like this. Get some thin value from like a pair. Like that, basically. And then I assume we'll get raised by some queen x straights a lot. And get the full amount with king queen. But could definitely go either way there. I'm not sure about using just the bigger size myself. Here, 10-9 suited is a 3-bet. We'll open up this. Queen 4-6 two-tone. We get led into. Over here, we'll just float versus the 3x 3-bet, or call versus the 3x 3-bet, king queen off. Over here, I think my hand kind of wants to start raising versus a donk. That doesn't make too much sense on this texture. I'm going to take a larger size as well. We'll go something like this. On this paired low board, we could do a little bit of betting, a little bit of checking. I'm going to start with the check with the king high. Versus a third, I think our hand is going to want to call. 2 clean overs. Over here, I think our hand probably wants to barrel this card with the king of spades. Could be a relevant card on a lot of runouts to bluff with. I also think the 5 as well could have some decent properties. Here in this line, when we face the bet in the check on the river, we will be betting ourselves for value, definitely. Just a matter of how much. And I think we can probably size up, given the capness of this line from villain. I'm going to just take pot. Over here, this is basically like the textbook run out to bluff. So we will just be shoving with the king of spades and a 5. Just probably a slam dunk combo, in my opinion. So we will just be shoving over here. And we get called pretty quickly by top pair, which is a reasonably thin call for a snap, but we'll keep that in mind as we go forward and adjust. It's a nice hand. Trying to figure out where the sounds went. Not too sure. Sevens we could raise, we could call. Versus the 31 big blind stack, we could try and raise, get it in. I'm just gonna call this time. On this texture, we'll see bet a lot. Check again the sevens. And we'll probably check back the board pairing 10 with our ace high. Facing large on this turn, sevens is just going to be a fold. Face a 3/4 pot size bet on this river. I think we'll have some better hands to call with. We're going to be doing a lot of checking on the turn on the board pair 10. So I don't know if we have to move all of these ace high, no club hands into continues as calls or raises. I think we'll get to fold a lot of these. So just going to go ahead and fold this ace high. Clear 3-bet over here. It's king. 40 bigs. I think this hand might perform well as maybe just a call, because I imagine we'll get rebanged by a lot of the better ace X, like ace jack, ace 10, ace queen, those types of hands. Oops, okay, or better as a fold maybe. Oopsie, but yes, I would have just called probably the ace 3 suited in this spot, but it probably also works well as a 3-bet. I'm not too sure about short stack heads up. Over here, we'll fold the jack 7 off the 3-bet. Still getting used to trying to talk while playing, clearly. Pretty decent board to just c-bet often. Obviously our hand benefits from a small bet. Over here on the turn, I think we can start bluffing with some of the lower type hands, like the 5-6s, 5-7s, 6-7 type hands. The ones that have like queen, king high are probably good enough to keep checking and put into the very small EV line where we check down to river and win sometimes. 7-4 off, I can't remember. I'll just open it. Stick to the plan over here. I face a large bet now, so he's basically repping, I would say, like maybe a good 8, like a king 8 or better. Definitely can go thin for value. I think I have some better hands to call with. I'll be checking down some bad pairs, some king highs even. So I'm just going to fold the queen high here. Queen 3 off versus full 3x off a shorter stack. I'm just going to fold. We get a donk on 8-7-4, which is probably more of a thing than some of the other donks that we've been facing. I don't think our hand can raise, or it probably can raise, but I think this exact 8x probably performs quite well as a call versus the small donk. Turn a little bit more equity. I think our hand is a fine candidate to check back. it would be a little bit thin of a value bet, and I'd probably be playing a larger size on the turn now, be betting something like a 9 or better. You could merge some hands into this, you know, hands like this into this bet, but I like checking back some of these hands with equity, with Showdown. It gives you some unexpected strong hands on the river as well, such as this one. Over here, we'll just c-bet on this very nice texture. And now, I think I'm just going to be using like a big size and a medium size. I think a medium size we could use maybe thin for value with like a set or 2 pair, and the big size for straights, especially ones with a 10. I think this one specifically blocks some calls of like the 7, 8, 9 type hands. Although those do 3-bet sometimes on the flop. So I think I'm going to use this in the medium size. And we will fold over here with the 7 high, and we do get called by a 2 pair. So that worked out. A nice thing about that medium size is you'll just have a lot of natural calls that can just click call. Like a lot of hands make a 2 pair a set on that sort of run out. All of the hands that aren't straights, I mean, sort of have like a somewhat reasonable flick in the chips. We'll 3-bet over here. The ace jack. We make trips over here. We don't face a c-bet on the king queen 8, which is interesting. I'm gonna start probing small, just because I think it's really capped, this line. Over here, this is obviously a good flop for exact hand. I'm gonna use a really small c-bet size in this 3-bet pot mono board. We do get check raised, or sorry, not check raised, but raised very large in position. This could be like a stop raise type thing where he plans to check back river with like an ace queen, queen jack type of hand. Either way, I don't think we can re-raise because our king is not nutted and can only continue as call. He will make some flushes in this line. I can see some flush draws raising on the turn. Here, I think we will barrel again. Something like 2/3. It's probably decent. After we just get a call on the flop, maybe like a half pot. Let's just use half. I think is appropriate. We do make a strong hand on the river over here. I think we have a pretty clear target of like the queen X and jack X flushes. I don't think we'll get bluffed a lot if we check, and I don't know if like a jack X flush is always going to value bet. So I'm just going to use like a medium-ish size to target those types of hands. And we get called rather light by the straight, which is interesting. Probably don't need to be calling non-flushes in the bet call bet line, but it's good to note. Jack 4 off versus a 30 big blind stack. I'll just open it. We'll open up that ace deuce off. And we pick up the ace deuce off on both tables. Very nice, lovely hand. The top and the bottom of the deck. We get the 3-bet over here. Hand's just gonna fold. We get a donk on Jack 7-9 rainbow, which again is not gonna be a thing. We will be doing a lot of raising, punishing, of course, versus the small donk, but I think our hand with the over can just continue versus a third in position. It's a good turn. I don't expect much ace x to donk if it's not two pair, like ace 7, ace 9 type hands, and those hands probably just barrel the turn or check raise. So I do expect to get check raise sometimes, but this turn is very good for my range, so I'm actually going to size down and target a lot of those medium-ish hands that would have donked a flop. Over here, I think we can start betting a 7, especially a good 7. I would check maybe some worse 7s. On this texture, low, paired, two-tone, I'm going to use a bigger size. Let's just use 3/4. 9s, I'm going to 3-bet. The little studying I have done of heads up has been at 100 big blinds, by the way, so now that we're at 200 big blinds, I know some like small adjustment type things that you do, but if I didn't already know 100 big blind heads up very well, 200 big blind heads up is definitely rather unknown for me, but we'll do our best. This is why it's good to study like principles in poker, you know, why things work generally, so you can try to apply these sets of concepts at different stack depths, different formats, etc. Jack 7, 9, I actually think this is an okay board to check sometimes, and this Jack 6 I actually think is like a nice sneaky jack to put into the check, like a weaker jack. Here with our clean gut shot, I'm just going to c-bet, and facing a very large raise, I'm just going to fold because we could be getting raised by like a 9-10 type hand, and then of course our 6 is not clean and we have a bit reversed. We also don't have suits to continue, so I'm just going to lay that one down. We do face the probe, or the turn stab here. We're just going to call with our weaker jack and sort of protect this very weak line of ours where we check back to flop and call a small bet on the turn. Versus block, I actually think our hand is definitely good enough to raise even with a weak jack, because this is a spot where he can go relatively thin for value with like a 9. Given the weakness of my line, like a decent 9 that is. So we're just going to target those types of hands and raise to a reasonable size that lets us do this with like a thinner top pair type hand. So we'll make it like 8.3, something like that. And our 6 does play, which is nice. So that's a nice hand. Here with the king 9 suited, I think we can 3-bet. I'm just using 4x, by the way, versus a 3 big blind open. It might not be best 200 big blinds deep, but don't plan on mixing it up now, so. It's a nice flop. We will probably just see bet our range on the drier ace high, or the disconnected ace high boards. Our main size on the turn is going to be maybe like half pot. And I think this hand can go for it. I'm trying to think if there's any merit in checking this hand. We do obviously block the ace-x calls and some of the 5x with a heart that will call us again. I'm going to mix it up, and I think in this exact spot it might perform well to check back this hand. Here we're going to c-bet again, just a dry ace-high texture, or disconnected ace-high texture. And facing the check on the river, I think we can now size up 2 pairs. So we're going to use like a big size for 2 pair, maybe an even bigger size for better hands. So let's just go with something almost pot. Over here, we'll just call the 5-4 off. Turn king is not a good card to play a lot of leads. Obviously, we can lead polar, but I prefer to do that with a hand that maybe has a little bit more going for it. We could obviously use some trash, but I think we have a wealth of other selections here. Jack X, flush draws. Facing a large bet, we'll just let it go. Small bet. with 2 overs. Even without the spade, I'm just going to put in a call. I think that's going to be pretty standard in these types of spots. Versus 3-bet with jacks. Even 200 big blinds deep, I think heads up jacks is always going to be good enough to 4-bet. In terms of size, you probably want to go a full 3x. I'm just going to make it, not that, make it this. And we take it down with our king high over there. Versus a full 3, I'm wondering if the offsuit ace-x's want to start 3-betting more often. I think we'll use some of the better ones like ace-7, ace-8, ace-9 offsuit. Ace-6 offsuit. I think it's probably fine as a call. We're running pretty good in this video, I'd say, connecting with a lot of flops. So that's nice for the video, at least. Over here, we're going to do a lot of checking, as well as betting small, and I think could go either way with this hand. I'm just going to check this time. This is like a decent ace to put in our check on the turn to protect our range. We face a small bet in position. A raise is very interesting versus like what I imagine is going to be like a very merge protection-y range. The ace without a kicker, though. I'm just going to play call. I'm not going to lead this queen river. We'll basically call always here versus anything, I think, the way we've played our ace. This is tough. Our line is obviously quite weak, and this is going to be very high in our range, so we will probably have to call, but I also expect to be attacked enough in this line. So we will put in the side call. And chop it up. That's always a possibility when the queen comes out as well, by the way. So very dry texture over here. We're going to see-bet. Oh, I accidentally clicked limp instead of raise with the king-jack off, and our opponent does us the favor of ISOing our limp very small, so we're just going to call in position. With king-jack, we could probably raise again, but I've already screwed this hand up pretty bad, so I'm just going to call. We get a very large check raise over here, which I actually think is nice. Going to just lay down ace-5 off. Small c-bet, I guess. We will call our hand with the king-high with a heart. Facing the check, I don't think we need to start bluffing king-jack type hands. They have a lot of EV and like a check down line. To the point where I don't think starting to bet even with a heart is going to outperform. We face pot on the river. Well, I think we have a lot of pairs that are pretty easy calls. Ahead of like a king-high type hand. I'm trying to think if versus pot we need to use some king-high hands as calls. I think bluffs are going to come from like... I'm trying to think, maybe like a jack-10 type hand. Because I imagine a lot of the 8-9, 8-10, 10-9, 4-5, like that's... Or not 4-5, that's a straight, but like 5-8. Those types of hands are all going to bet the turn again. It's kind of hard for me to find a bluff... checks the turn. And we have a jack, so we block some of those ones that maybe will. So I'm just going to let it go this time. But that's a tough one. Here, we face the turn deuce. We could probably go either way here. I don't think we have like a ton of deuce X. So, in the donk call even. So, I'm just going to check back. Try and spike a pair on the river, which we do. Very nice. Oh, I accidentally went all in. That's unfortunate. Or not all in. See, my keyboard is dying and like it's giving me some ghost inputs here. I'll just tell him it's a misclick. I think in this exact line we do have to call our 5x and maybe we can start folding some high card floats. Which is a little unfortunate. expect to lose a lot. But this time we get it through. I imagine a lot of like thinner hands could do this, like 7s, 8s. Some 9x could even, you know, stop barreling the turn and go for a bet like that on the river. So we do face a donk on the queen 10-6, which is a little strange. This is like a good board for the raiser, obviously. I think our queen low kicker can raise or call. I'm just going to call this time. We do face a quick check on the turn on the overcard. I think we can probably bet again pretty cleanly now. I don't expect to get like check raised in this line. I don't think he expects me to do a lot of betting on this turn. But it's possible. I'm going to place a rather thin value bet. Target some like 10x, 6x, maybe 1 spade hands. I also don't think he can go buck wild here, because on this turn, obviously, we'll make some strong hands. And the plan is to check back the river. This is an interesting run out. I do think he can have some pairs without a spade, so I will be checking, but we'll have to get creative with some bluffs here. Maybe not the queen x. But I'll be interested to look at this spot later. Here, I'm just going to call the mono board with top and bottom. Yeah, so this is the type of hand I expect to beat sometimes. So I think our hand is probably worth a bet, but folds to a raise. In terms of size, we'll use like a small size and a bigger size for our flushes, but I think like 2 pairs, even bad 2 pairs in like the bet check turn line, can value bet on the river. I'm just gonna go like a small size. And we do get called by the a7 over here, so nice hand. I'm trying to think if this hand makes it into check raise. It probably does at some frequency, but I imagine like some of... yeah, I think this hand will get in there. I imagine like maybe the cleaner straight draw type hands, like 4-5, 3-5, 3-4, also get in there. But I imagine some pair and backdoors will as well. So we're going to do it. Here, we will just c-bet. Turn 10, we get called very quickly. So there wasn't much consideration of like a 3-bet. I'm trying to think if our hand is good enough to check or if we need to just continue bluffing. I imagine sometimes we'll have to keep bluffing. Some of these like pairs we check raise. I'm going to check this time. I imagine we get floated wide by like some high cards. Here on the turn with a spade, the 10 is a little worse of a card to barrel because we block some of those like 10x of clubs continues that'll fold the turn. So I'm just going to take my gut shot on the turn here. And then on the river, I'm going to try and showdown versus like a king high, king jack, king queen type hand. I don't think we have to bluff our deuce. We face a larger bet. I think we'll just lay down the 10-8. Alright, and he had the ace, so I don't suppose he would have folded to a turn barrel. Those lines are always a bit tricky, check raising with a low pair. But we face a small 3-bet. I'm thinking that 5-6 off will just actually have to call versus just 3x, even when we're in position and a bit deeper. So we will call, and we're in a bit uncharted territory now. Versus a third, we'll just have a pretty clear call. We could check raise this hand. I prefer to have maybe like a suited backdoor to do it. But, you know, we'll have some 4x and deuce x we can also use. I think we'll just call this one this time. I do advocate for being extremely aggressive though, obviously, on flops. So we'll be check raising sometimes. I think on the turn our hand is good enough to check and try and get the showdown. Tough run out. We get the small bet in position. I don't think we have the direct odds to call this, and I imagine we're behind quite often. I think some traps will be used for the small size, so I don't really feel great about like the large check raise here, and then arrive on river. Especially when you don't have a heart and the board might come hearts. I would have folded here anyway. I'm just going to let this one go. I think we will come out firing over here, probably. This is a good hand to use. We can bluff on spades. We can also bluff bricked clubs a lot of the time. In terms of size, we'll just use very large size. Here we're going to see bet quite often. Yeah, now I actually don't like the spade as much. And bricked clubs is one thing. I think we're going to get c-bet a lot from clubs on the flop, actually. So I'm trying to think if our hand can bluff. It obviously can bluff. The jack isn't great. I imagine some hands, like a weaker jack, will check the flop sometimes. Yeah, we probably should have gone for it here. I was going to think through it a little bit more, but we were running out of time bank. Here we have a completely indifferent hand. I think we could go either way. I'm just going to randomize. And probably have to call this one. We will call our suited connector over here. I didn't really randomize. I think Jax is I think Jax probably has to call. We face the check on this board. With our pair, I don't think we're going to be doing probing. I don't think like one pair is going to be the type of hand that is going to start stabbing when checked too. Sorry. Not a great turn, obviously, but I don't think we can fold a pair for a third yet. And here. And here, I guess we can try and showdown versus the king high of the world. We will probably have some hands that can bluff. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's probably fine. We'll have some like flush draw hands that we check back and don't want to get check raised on the flop. That will call a turn. So it's close. I just think we'll get a lot of check calls from like an ace in that line, just based on how this session's going so far. So here with our 7, we'll check and try and win at showdown. Versus 1 big blind. Not gonna get fancy, just gonna pay it off. And we're right this time, which is nice. On the turn here with our 8, this is a pretty good board for us, I would say. I'm going to start using a larger size. And betting like a 9 or better. I think we will probably bluff now. And I'm saying I have a 9, right? So I'm going to be using a very large size looking to target like overcards. Let's go with this. Call this. This player is a little sticky on the stickier side, so I expect to get called by ace high sometimes. Definitely a tough player to bluff, for sure. Over here, I think there's a lot of other hands we could use to start bluffing turn, and in terms of size, I'd probably, again, go on the larger size. Versus 1 big blind, we don't even have, like, a straight draw So we'll just let it go. We'll check back our top pair here on this obviously very dynamic or very wet connected board. And I think this is one of the spots where we'll try and bring our 10 to showdown. And our 10 will lose to the flush. We get donked into on the Jack 7-4. I think our hand can raise. We'll use another large size. Something like this. Again, these donks aren't a thing. You're supposed to be punishing them very aggressively. We get 3-bet, which is interesting. Very large as well. We'll be raising some strong hands. I'm trying to think about if there's ever better flush draws in this donk and then 3-bet, which there probably is. I'm actually not a fan of this spot, believe it or not. I haven't seen aggression like this in this line before. I'm thinking this time it's either going to be like a nutted draw or like 4s, which we're not doing great against, even with our flush draw. I'm not a fan of this spot. I'm just going to let it go. Our flush draw doesn't have great properties for continuing, so just going to let that one go. Nice hand. That could be a punt. I might have to continue that flush draw, but just going with what I think for that. We get led into for a large size over here. Bit strange. We'll have a lot of, obviously, ace-x, queen-x, flushes, pair and flush draw. So I think we'll just let go of the 6s even with our flush draw. We're running out of time now. Ace 10, over 200 bigs deep. I'm just going to call the ace 10 off. Not exactly the type of hand I want to start inflating the pot with when we're very deep. But it could be a 3-bet, not sure. On the turn, I think I'm going to be playing like a pretty large size on this disconnected of a board. So I don't think the 10 is going to make it in. We're going to be using a lot of the Jack X, obviously, and some better hands and bluffs as well. So I think the 10 doesn't make it into the range I'd want to bet for a very large size on the turn. Versus 3/4 on the turn, we're just going to call. Pretty decent river. This is an interesting size. I think it's possible we beat value, so we will have to call. We'll lose to a jack most often, but I imagine a jack is just going to seep at the flop quite often. If you had a deuce, I imagine it would go larger, or maybe not bet the turn. So I'm just going to call. And we will beat the king 4 off. I think this hand's going to do some 3-betting. We get a third donk on the king queen 4, which is very strange. I'm going to go with a small raise exploitatively because this texture is definitely not a thing to have any donks on, and he's doing very poorly compared to our range. So I'm just going to raise. Pop him with a little almost min raise just to see what's up. Here versus 3x again, I don't think we get to fold like a queen 3 suited. We might not even get to fold queen 3 suited to a normal 3-bet. Or maybe it might be cuspy. It might be like queen 5 is the one we fold, or the cutoff we call versus normal 3-bet size. We'll just let it go here. Don't got anything going for us. that. In terms of hands I'm going to start bluffing the turn with, I think we'll use a lot of 10x, obviously. I think we'll just check this time. Here we'll call. We can maybe 4-bet 6-5 suited sometimes. I'm just going to call this time. I'm trying to think if this hand is trashy enough to start probing or start stabbing when check 2 on the flop. I think it is. And in terms of size, where he's supposed to bet quite often, I'm going to use like half pot to stab. With spades, I might just check back because it's a little worse getting check raised. I think these backdoor flush draws kind of trashy enough where we can just start bluffing in position, which is going to be naturally quite polar. The in position bet here, because I expect to, in theory, you're going to get check raised a lot. In practice, we might not be getting check raised as much, which kind of makes betting in position with a wider range a bit better. And we can maybe move in some of like the decent equity backdoor flush draw type hands if they weren't already supposed to be doing it. So I think that's totally fine. Not sure about the size. Obviously, I expect to get c-bet into on the King Jack X quite often. He might be playing like a larger size and check as well. That's also a possibility. I think half is probably fine. Especially at this SPR, we'll be using some bigger sizes. Here, we'll check back with our jack. Just going to c-bet 7, 7, 8. With our jacks. Here with block, we could. I mean, obviously we're not folding. It's kind of close to a raise, I would say. Our 5 doesn't play, obviously. I'm just gonna call the block here. Yeah. Here I don't think we can fold. Although I'm not in love with this spot because we obviously block some bluffs. I don't think we're getting check raised often enough. And obviously it's a very large size, but I don't think we can fold yet. Interesting turn. If he was check raising some 8x as like a merge check raise, we're not losing, of course. I don't think our hand really wants to bet. I think a lot of straight draws are just gonna fold. And that sounds like a good thing, I guess, but I also think our hand just performs quite well as a check. On the off chance he has 9-10 and we hit a jack on the river, that, you know, there's a little bit of EV there as well. So, I think we'll just call ace jack suited. We face a bigger bet over here. It's hard to imagine that a full house wouldn't have barreled the turn. I imagine we're going to lose to a 7x full house pretty often, but I just don't think we can fold. I imagine we're going to be getting check raised enough by like a 5-6, 4-5 type of hand to have to call it overpair. So yeah, I expect to lose a decent amount there. That's fine. We will float with our overs and backdoor flush draw. Here, face a quick check on the turn. I think I'm just going to check back the very nutted flush draw. I might bet like an ace-4 of diamonds type hand. We make top pair on the river, which is nice. And in this line, I think we have a very clear big value bet now. I think this jack is very strong, obviously. We could lead sometimes over here. I'm just going to keep it simple, though. I think our hand is even good enough for something like this. We'll just let it go over here. Continue with a heart, maybe. Nice pot to win over here. Interesting to note he's putting 3-4 off in the 3-bet. We just call the king 3 suited. I think this hand is worth a raise sometimes. Like, I'll probably raising some pairs, so I'm gonna go on like a... I'll use this size. Here I think we'll call it the over backdoor flush draw. I like this hand. In terms of backdoor straight draw, flush draw, spade, club type hands to use are pretty good. And on the turn, I think the bluffs will barrel with will be like the king X with a spade, queen X with a spade maybe. Jack X with a spade is possible. But I think we have some higher equity stuff to barrel, maybe like the 4-5, 5-6 ones that turns gut shots and have even less showdown value. So I'm just going to check this time. We face a small bet in position. I think we'll probably just have to call with our 3. Yep. Here, even versus 1/3 now. I think we'll just let it go. Nice hands, nice hands. Jack deuce off, 160 big blind deep. This deep, I'll probably just call a 3-bet with 10s. It's close though, you could 4-bet. I'll just call this time. We get the donk on 5-4-4. This is more of a thing as well on these like lower paired boards. I don't think our hand is strong enough to continue. So I'm just gonna let it go. Here, like I said before, we're pretty polar when we start to bet when check 2 on the flop in these spots. So I think this hand will qualify. It's an overpair and benefits from some protection. In terms of size, that's about the worst case scenario. Like I don't get my bet in for protection and then an ace comes on the turn. That's hilarious. Okay, well I guess 10s can check sometimes with a spade, you know, so we'll just put it in that line. Yeah, we'll probably check back if check 2. Yeah, this is just not great. I think the bluffs now are a little more unintuitive because I think like the king high type hands, that 3-better will be more inclined to check and try and take showdown value. So I think it's a bit tougher to find bluffs now. So exploitatively, probably just gonna lay this down, getting odds to call. But yeah, that's unfortunate because we probably win that hand fairly often if we get our bet in on the flop, which is you know. We'll see about this hand, this ace 10, and on this board. Too busy yapping. Missing out on opportunities to deny equity. Textbook range bet board over here. No straight draws available. Completely rainbow. Super dry. I think King Jack is good enough to go into our largest size that we're going to want to use on the turn. In this case, I'll probably use something like 130% pot. Here, we'll probably just call. I think we had like an ace 7, ace 8 off with the ace of hearts. We can check raise. We can even check raise some of these hands, I think, but lower frequency. Almost didn't get this bet in over there either. Too busy yapping. Like, I go to one board, talk about it, and then go back to the other board. It's like very unfortunate. And then here, I think we have a pretty clean triple. In terms of size, I think we'll use our smaller of 2 sizes. So I'm just going to go for something like this. I think maybe like ace king and better can use like the biggest size, king queen and better. Maybe. Definitely like 2 pairs, sets, things like that. So we're just going to use this size. We're going to take our ace high to showdown over here. I think we'll win sometimes. Nice hand over here. And we do lose to the 6 over here. We've been going for a little while now. I think we'll maybe go for like another hour maybe. So we're about halfway through. Let's see here. Check. And we get less than min 3-bet over here. Maybe misclick. I don't think we can fold anything. And instantly punish the min 3-bet by flopping trips. Here, king high, we don't need to start bluffing, especially without a spade. We'll just use a small size when check two on a board like this. Here, we'll just let it go. I do plan on tripling this hand for value. There's a lot of intuitive, like even one diamond overcard turns that we can get value from on the turn, / protection. We're only gonna use half pot on this draw completing turn. Take it down. Show him that he let me hit my trips with the min 3-bet. So I think the reverse suit combo here will do a lot of check raising, obviously, with the ace of hearts. I think even with these suits, we'll do some check raising. And then on the turn, again, like, the big bluffs will probably come from, like, the 5-6s, you know, those types of open-enders, gut shots that are lower with lower cards. I think, especially without the ace of hearts, we don't need to, like, use this one in, like, a massive turn probe. Versus a third in position, I think our hand just can call. Tough run out because I imagine he'll be using a small size with a jack. I mean, we're already losing to a jack, to be fair, but now I don't think we can get the hero call as often when he uses a big size. But yeah, because I imagine the small bet on the turn might be used for a jack, is what I'm trying to say. So maybe it's a good thing. Maybe we're losing less often now. Yeah, this is tough because I imagine that a jack would use a bigger size. It's also the case he could be bluffing like a 10-9, 8-9, those types of hands that we actually unblock for small in the turn to try and like set the price for river to realize their equity, and then have to bluff river, because I imagine just a jack's going to want to go bigger. He could have some of the worst queens, I guess, that might check back to flop, but I think I probably can call ace high. We don't have a ton of pairs that are better, so I'm just going to call this time. Yeah, that's the type of hand I was talking about, like the 10-8, 10-9, 8-9 hands. So, nice hand there. Flop a pair and a gut shot over here to the wheel. Did we make it? Did we make our straight? Let me check. Ace? Nope, no deuce. Okay. Trying to think about my strategy on this turn. I think we can bet 2 pair plus. In terms of size, on this, we'll have a lot of deuce X, so I think I want to build my betting strategy around the 2 pair. And in his perspective, I have a lot of deuce X, so he's not going to be calling like a big bet super often. I'm just going to use the half pot. I think is a really effective size for 2 pair. I might be wrong to build a strategy around that. I'm not sure. On the river now, I actually think we can play small bets with like 2 pair. Target some of the aces that might have checked the flop. Some random 1 pair hands. So I'm just going to use a block. And then over here, we will 3 bet. And we lose to a better 2 pair over here, which is totally fine. We get the 4 bet, very large, or I guess that's standard for 150 bigs deep in position even. I'm trying to think, do we call the 7-8 suiteds? Yeah, what the hell. Well, that's just a bit embarrassing, isn't it? We'll probably do a lot of check jamming. Here. We'll bet like 1 big blind. I imagine he's never folding like an overpair. So we'll just get it in. I'm gonna take a little bit of time, make it look like, oh, what do I do with 10s? What do I do with 9s? You know, that type of stuff. And then put it in. Oh, he's doing a lot worse than I thought. We'll keep betting small over here with a gut shot. He wants to run it 3 times. Sure, let's do it. Nope. Almost. Wait, no, not really, actually. Okay. We'll take it down over here. That's just an embarrassingly good flop, so I'm sorry to my buddy one buy-in here. Just running pretty hot. But everybody has good days and bad days for sure. Yeah. Don't think we need to start bluffing our ace highs over here, or at least not all of them. Double Broadway. See bet small. This one's close. We don't have a lot of visibility. Like, we don't improve very often. We block some intuitive bluffs with the 5. We're gonna check back and try and take our 6s to showdown. We did not make it to showdown with our 6s. Jack 3. C bet. Nice gut shot over here. I think I'll probably take my gut shot equity over here. With a rather barrelless spade, like 3 of spades. There's some backdoor hearts hands that will call flop fold turn. Just it helps to sort of siphon off your, or I guess bucket your turn barrels using some heuristics like that. So that's what we'll do. Or sorry, not the, I guess the 3 of hearts is good. What was I saying? Oh, maybe, sorry, I got confused. The 3 of hearts is good because the turn is a heart, so those heart hands aren't going to be folding anyway. So this hand would have actually functioned well as a turn bet. I'm not sure what I'm talking about. I'm going crazy. We will call versus a third over here with the ace high backdoor straight draw, if you want to call it that. And now we have the gut shot. With how I'm running, I will be spiking the 3 of hearts on the river every time after check check. We get the third. I actually think we have enough equity being able to hit like an ace or a 3 to call a third. And obviously when he's doing that thing we saw before where he's like trying to set a price on like a smaller size for a bluff, we'll actually check and win with our ace high sometimes if he doesn't follow through. So close to the 3 of hearts. We'll check and see what he does. So he did bet flop small, did bet turn small, and bet river on the medium to large size side. Let's see. I don't think I like when I call down like this, like call, even turn, even when the turn call is small. I think I will have just like 8s, like 8x, which is just gonna be a better call to make. I'll have 4s obviously, so I think versus like a smaller size we could call some ace highs maybe, but I'm just gonna let this one go. It feels close though, you know, like it feels close, but I'm just gonna let that one go. Show him a deuce. We didn't have anything. We do get a donk on this 9-5 deuce. I think with this hand we will have to call, but it's a little strange. Again, this board is not really a donking texture. Get a quick check on the turn. A lot of his 9x's are now downgraded to second pair, so I actually don't mind this hand as like a bet turn bluff river. Because we will float a bunch of 10x more than I think he donks. So I'm just gonna start betting in bluff spade rivers or bricked hearts maybe. Let's do something like this. Also the queen is decent for some rivers like that. Although I expect to get stationed a decent amount because like people don't like folding when the board comes consecutive overcards because they're like you're running out of value hands, but we will be bluffing, I believe. This hand. Let's just do a size to fold out like a 9. I think it'll take something like pot. Ah, 2 pair. Not gonna get him to let go of that one. That's a nice hand. Yeah, I don't expect many deuce X's to call pot on the turn, but I guess it still beats bluffs. So, yeah, it's tough. We'll fold over here, no diamond. We let that go. Oh, tough. Sometimes the bluffs don't work because they have 2 pair. We'll be calling. Flop a gut shot. Backdoor clubs. Face a small bet. I'm trying to think if we do raising here. I think we have enough diamonds and maybe open-enders that will be our first raises, to where we don't need to just start aggressively using these sorts of hands. So facing a small size where we get to close the action, obviously see a turn for a very good price. I'm gonna use this hand to just see the turn. We turn more equity now. For here, I think we'll just call queen 10 suited, and maybe 4-bet some lower queens, like even queen deuce 3, 4, 5 suited, those types of hands. Although at 200 big blinds deep, really not sure what is changing. Versus a third again, we could start raising now. I just would hate to raise and get jammed on. So I think I'm just going to take all, like, I'm getting direct odds to call for sure. So I'm just going to take that. And we will have to bluff river now when we get checked too. Here we'll see bet. I think now we'll just tell them that we have a queen. Like a queen 10 even. A king queen. So we'll just go for 3/4. The bet check. I imagine it'll be some traps occasionally. Hearts over here. I think we can barrel pretty. Okay, that's very unfortunate because I was about to bluff. How did this pot get to 30 big blinds? What happened? I'm so confused. Oh, I called a 3-bet and bet the flop. Sorry. Okay. This is I'm tweaking. I'm losing my mind. I think I totally lost track of the action over here because of this other hand. Yeah, I was about to bluff this one, so we would have won that hand probably, but very stupid. I just keep timing out in all these spots. 1/10 pot. I don't think queen high is ever gonna win here. Especially when we have a 10, so we can't have like 10 or has 10-9 less often. So we'll just fold. But yeah, that I screwed up all these hands. That was really bad all around. Here, we'll use like a big size on the turn. I imagine we'll get check raised on the flop by 10-9 a lot, so he's pretty capped actually. I don't remember. I think it gets a bit better deeper. So we'll use our bigger size here. Very unfortunate. This hand is tilting me now, but this is a nice run out. I imagine again like a 6-9 is going to be check raising the flop quite often. So I think we'll use our 2 pairs in like an overbet. We'll use our jack X at like a normal size. We're targeting a jack pretty cleanly here, I would say. Maybe we can go even bigger, but I'm just going to keep the strategy simple. No! Oh my god, it keeps happening. It keeps happening. Oh my god, I gotta stop talking. I gotta stop talking. Okay, he probably folds that hand to be fair, but I've gotta stop talking. need to stop yapping so much and just do the thing first and yap later. That's my new mantra. Do thing first and yap later. But it's alright, I still think we're playing well, so happy with how it's gone so far. Let's try and put these time issues behind us. Jack 10-10, paired board with Broadway cards. We will c-bet quite often. Here, we will just fold the 6-8 off no heart. Turn 4, I think we have some better bluffs to use than this exact holding. I can imagine there's like some 8x that calls flop folds turn, even clubs, so I'm just going to check back. And if we get check 2 now, we will be bluffing the river. I think when we bluff, we can say we have like a king, obviously, quite often. So I'm actually just going to use a size I'd use for king, which is we'll build our good top pairs around like pot. So we'll do that. And we'll fold jack 6 over here. And we get the tilt call from ace high, which actually it's a fine call, I think. Ace high is probably fine there. Alright, let's play faster. We need to play faster. We will 3-bet the ace 5 suited. Ace 6-4 rainbow, we'll just c-bet. We'll fold to check raise over there. Can better check. With 8 of diamonds, I think hand can bet for sure. Also definitely could go either way. Let's check this time to go weaker 9. Make trips, which is nice. We will actually raise a small bet now. And now we'll play some bigger sizings here with our trips. I think we'll... Not my favorite river card. I imagine a lot of the hands we lose to now, we'll do some betting on the turn, so I'm going to bet again. Let's go for... let's see, what are we going to do with our flushes? They're going to go quite large. I think trips can go pot, probably. Let's do something like that. Got a D-tilt. D-tilt from missing that bluff and missing the value bet with 2 pair. Can do a lot of checking on the ace, obviously. It's good for his range. And maybe I would lead some more polar hands than a bad ace. On the river, we'll just bet ourselves something like pot for our top pair. And over here... check again with our king high. Base a third. I'll just let it go. Oh, that hand probably opens, but oopsie. 3-bet. Just make sure I'm not 3-betting to 122 big blinds. As you can see, I'm still not super comfortable with like the whole playing and explaining aspect of all this, especially like sizing correctly, getting my bets off in time. You know how it is. On these like lower wheelish boards, we're going to be doing some checking. I think this hand can check. It's like one of our worst ace X, and yeah, we want to have some aces in our check. Versus a small bet. We could raise, although we're basically just saying we have a 4 or some sort of strong-ish ace that didn't bet the flop. I'm curious to see what he's going to do on the river after small bet this turn. Not a great run out. But our ace is obviously still quite strong. Versus block, we are just going to be raising and probably folding to a 3-bet. Trying to think what's a good size. Let's do something like this. We're just targeting like a rivered 7, pocket 5s. How are we doing over here? Up a little bit over here. Up over here. This hand probably floats. Do backdoor hearts, queen high, turn a deuce. There we go. Something. Although I do think we'll fold versus a lot of bets on the turn because we'll have some better pairs. Block more of the flopped value type hands. So we'll fold. On this turn, we're going to be doing a decent amount of betting with our Jack X. I prefer a club and maybe a heart. Our suits aren't the best. So I'm just going to let myself time out over here. That's my policy now. And now I think we can value bet. In terms of like size, if we ever check back a flush, like a queen X of clubs or something, we'll use a big size. So I think our straights can go into like maybe a different size than that. So we'll just do something like this. We get the donk over here. I think with our overs, we'll just call. Quick check on the turn on the flush complete. I don't imagine those pairs that would have donked for protection on the flop are basically going to fold to any size. And we have a lot of equity versus them, or a decent amount with our 2 overs. So I'm just going to check back and take that equity. Call that. We face half, which is interesting. That's not a super strong size in this run out. I am going to just raise and rep the king. I think we can just do a ton of raising here in this exact line, this exact sizing scheme and run out. Although the donk on the king is a little interesting because you would expect me to have a king, like a decent amount that's just going to snap it. I still think we can raise. Or maybe we want to have a spade. Or like a 6. This is tough. Or maybe we can just call sometimes. Although, I imagine it's like the hands we're targeting are like 6s, 7s, that type of stuff. Over here, no club, we'll check. I think I'll just let it go. Took too much time already. That's tough. Oh man, I don't know about that one. Because yeah, like wouldn't a hand like 7s, like, also maybe bet turn, but like check river, thinking I'm going to be bluffing a lot on the king, so I am not too sure about that one. We'll 3-bet sometimes. Here we'll check our 6. So right now the fucking timeout is playing for me, which is good. Literally timeout, like play this entire hand, and I got the win off the hand, which is very nice. Yeah, this is not great time management. Here, I think we can start building our bets around like a 9, so we'll use like a bigger size. This one's close. Queen 7-8. We'll probably do some checking on this board. I think jacks is a hand that like clearly wants to check. I'm trying to think if we're doing checking. I think so on this type of texture. And without a club, jacks, I think we'll just use it in a check. Although you could definitely just bet this board. I'm getting a little creative willy-nilly with my c-betting strategies here just to try and maybe make some extra exploits. We get donked into on this. We will just float our 2 overs. Here on the ace turn again, I think we're going to check. We get another quick check over here on this 10. I think I'm going to start betting 10x and better, or maybe we can also bet some like 7s, 6x. I'm not sure. Either way, I don't want to use like a huge size because we're targeting like a 6, so I'm just going to go half. Might not be correct. We can maybe size up even more than that. Here, I think we'll have some better hands on this run out. I'm not going to need to call this size. Here we still beat a hand like 5-6, obviously. Just gonna use a decent size that can target maybe like a worse 10 or a 6 or 7s. I don't imagine an 8 will be in this line very often. It might check raise a turn. Um, might lead the river even. So we'll just do this. And then here we will call. Nice. Yeah, we do beat some of those worse two pairs, or two pairs that don't play, obviously. It's always a little scary when you see them turn over like the two pair when you're like, oh, it doesn't play. Here on this turn, I'm trying to think. Again, we could two barrel this, which I think has some merit actually on a paired board. And the game has decided that we will be checking, which is totally fine. I need to stop yapping. And okay, now we will value bet on the larger size. Target a 10. Target king high. Let's just do that. And now here, we'll float, I think, with the backdoor straight. We could check raise sometimes. I prefer maybe like backdoor flush draw to check raise. Although this will do it sometimes. Maybe double suits on the board. This is interesting. I imagine this is never a bluff now. So, or very infrequently a bluff. Let me put like maybe like Jack 10, but I think Jack 10 he'll just be inclined to call. So we're just gonna let go of the Ace 4. There's a lot of King Jack in this line, I think. Just more traps that just start trapping on the flop with like they have a queen. For whatever reason. That one's, you know, whatever. That's a close spot. Here we're gonna have to bluff this river. I think we'll rep a. You know, let's actually just block and target some overcards. Just say we have like a weak pair. Why not? We have 4s, 5s, and 6s. Those will want to use small, and then maybe we can take some traps into it as well. Yep, that one makes sense. I'm gonna start building my bets around, let me think. I don't really have many like 8s, 9s, and stuff like that, because we'll be doing some 3-betting. I'm probably gonna be building it around a king. I don't think I want to bet like 4s, 5s, and 6s, so I'm gonna use a larger bet. We'll do something like this. Obviously our hand benefits from getting folds. I think we'll go for another maybe 30 minutes or so. 3-bet over here, I think we'll just fold versus 4x with the king 9 off. Here, just be range betting these double Broadway textures. Disconnected double Broadways, that is. Queen jack off, we'll just call. I think we can probably raise sometimes with the king 5 suited. We'll use this time. On the turn, I'm going to start building around my better queen x, because I don't think we want to bet like 8s. And again, we are 3-betting a lot of 8s, 9s, stuff like that. So I'm just going to use a larger size on like, it's like a connected board. You want to do a little bit of the less like monstrous sized betting. Like the 2x pots and stuff like that, although those will be a thing for sure on a lot of textures. Jack 3, not sure. 3 deuce of clubs. I think we can use this hand as a bet. It folds pretty clean to a check raise. In terms of size, you can use small or medium, and we'll just let it go this time. Bottom pair over here with our suited diaper we will call versus a third. The deuce X that we'll raise will be ones with like some draw opportunity as well, like backdoor hearts. You know, and then like the better deuces, maybe like some ace deuce. Think about ace four suited over here. And I think we'll just try and check down and beat like ace high, king high with our deuce. Yeah, we lose to a 4. We'll check this flop. Turn the open ender. We're just such a small bet, open ender. We could raise, but I kind of just like calling. We can obviously, we have pretty clean equity to spike like a jack, it seems like, versus his size. And obviously to hit our draw. That's also a decent card because we will be floating like infinite ace X. So now I'm going to be targeting all those thin value bets. With just a pot size bet. What I'd use for actually an ace I think can probably go for like something like that. Interesting. It's in a quick check call versus the overbet with a 4. Fair play. Here, we'll try and show down our queen, why not? 6-6 deuce, I think we'll c-bet for, the c-bet size we'll use will be like, interesting, 3/4 on checking down. He could have a 10, he's basically saying he has a 10. A lot of the other logical bluffs would start barreling on the turn, potentially. And the 5 block some of them. Just some lower cards. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. I think we will c-bet half pot over here. That'll be our size. And with the backdoor clubs, it's a decent candidate, I think. We obviously know we won't be getting a lot of folds. But I think we will use this hand. Just to target like all of the total trash. We get the donk on 3-4 deuce mono. Even with like this gut shot thing that we have, I'm just gonna let it go. We have all the club combos, better overs, 5x, ace x. This is a strange one as well. I think we'll just let it go. Some sort of backdoor potential, but we're gonna end up with like way too many bluffs when we inevitably brick all of these like random backdoor potential combos that will float versus the weird donk. And obviously we'll be doing a ton of raising, but I think there are some different hand classes that benefit more than that. Nice turn over here. Still got some of that run good left in the bottle, it looks like. I think I'm just going to be playing like half pot, build it around some 2-pair. Fold over here, even versus, I guess that was a small 3-bet, but I still think this type of hand is going to fold. So he's repping a jack now. I don't think he has ace-jack, obviously. I think that hand will be doing 3-betting pre-flop. So if he has a bluff, I'm just going to call. There's like a little bit of merit, or I mean, there's no real merit in 3-bet. I'm never 3-betting here because it doesn't make sense. Like we don't have a range to do that with, really. But there is something to be said for the spades that he'll have sometimes. And again, I still don't think he has many full houses just because they're gonna 3-bet pre-flop. You could have the king 10 type hand, but I don't think that raises turn, you know, obviously. So That's just gonna call on this type of board versus half. So I'm just gonna call. Yeah, we'll just call. He chop a lot. And he had a bluff this time, which is good. Nice to find the bluff on this type of texture. So I think that's a nice play. Because you're gonna have to be bluffing on the turn. If you want to raise your Jack X, you're gonna have to be bluffing some spades, and then you're gonna have to follow through with those spades on a brick river because you don't have any other bluffs, right? So I think that's a nice play from him. Especially those really low ones that sort of unblock my like. It's tough to call them like turn call flop folds. Like I don't really have many, especially versus his small size that I used. So maybe the only thing that he should have done better is actually just use like a really big size on the river, just repping some type of full house. Or I guess you have to rep a jack better than that, right? If you want trying to get me to fold a non-jack. So I don't know. That spot's interesting. I'll take a look at it later. Here, I'm trying to think. Well, we can bet. We could check. That's a straight, right? 6, 8, 9, 10, jack? Nope, no straight. This could go either way. I think we will probably just check and lose, because I don't think we will get any folds from a pair for a bluff in this sort of run out. Yeah, we'll let it go. He's saying he has a 7, which is a little strange given the action, but we'll let it go. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that hand. That one was maybe not so great. Another 20 minutes or so, maybe 15 minutes. Then I gotta run here. I think we do call. Here, backdoor spades, backdoor straight. We will call. We have a gut shot here, but is it enough to float versus a third? Probably not. And I think our first bluffs will be like hearts that sort of floated, like 7, 8 or 6, 7 type hands, maybe that we can float. Hands with a heart, maybe not. Actually, no, he barrels a lot of spades on the turn, so maybe spades aren't so bad. I'm gonna bluff. Again, I expect to be called just a ton here, but we will bluff. We'll use a small size, target some like hands that I just kind of gave up on the turn. Yeah, I think that's totally fine. Like, I think a jack's calling the size that the bigger size we would use, is what I'm trying to say. So I think that's pretty efficient. Again, not totally sure, but we will be betting some like non-spade holdings here, like without a spade, because obviously we need bluffs on a spade river. But I think those will be like some higher equity stuff, like a 10 or 7, 8, or really just a. Or okay, I guess we do have a 10. I didn't even really see what hand I have. Let's start bluffing then, in that case. There's a nice little run out for our 10. We will call versus a third. And I think, again, we'll be using a big size for flushes, and everything else worth betting, like maybe sets and better, we'll use a size that's like more normal. We can have some blocks potentially as well. I didn't consider that, but I think this hand is a pretty clean, like 75. I see. Interesting. That's tough. Okay, here. Maybe a better 8 we could bet for valuing position, but I'm just going to check back. Yeah, maybe we missed value there, because... It's tough, though. I mean, you can't really start putting in all these random 8x's that we have into these in-position river bets for, like, any reasonable size, you know. 999. We get donked. I imagine we'll be doing a lot of raising just because we have all of the great full houses. So I'm actually going to just start raising now. We have a lot of equity, like tons of like really strong equity as well, and we hit a queen or jack. We'll call this hand. We'll actually have a little bit of extra equity on a 10 now because we win versus like just like ace highs. So I am going to barrel this hand. We'll use a size like this. Of course, we're just like dead to quads, which you will have sometimes, I imagine. And I think we'll probably just give up a lot of rivers. Unless they're like really good, like a king or an ace or something like that. We'd bluff those, I think. Even though it seemed like our hand would have showdown value, I think it wouldn't. We'd basically always be up against like 4s, 5s, 6s or whatever. And we'd have to bluff our queens. And I think it would work very well as well. King high, don't think we have to bluff. This is an interesting one. We will have a lot of ace-x actually that checks the turn. And even 9x. Do we need to use king x's versus this size? Probably not. This one's close. Not sure. Just gonna let it go. Call versus a third. We'll also just river some queens. Maybe we block a lot of queen x. And bet some ace-x on the river, but we'll definitely check 9x. So we have some hands for sure that don't. I mean, maybe not enough to not call king x, or at least some king x versus the like a medium size. Check back on the turn. We'll just did he check the turn or check the flop? Let's just block the river. I'm not sure. Either way, I think it's probably fine. We get donked into on queen 10-8, which is very interesting. Definitely gonna be raising with a club, but I think our hand just plays quite well as a call. Versus raise. I'm trying to think. He's gonna say that he rivered like a straight or two pair. Having a jack is good. I think a queen barrels a turn a lot. This is interesting. I think we're gonna have to call sometimes. Obviously, having a 9 is better to call with because he's repping like he's saying he rivered something with a 9, like a jack 9, queen 9, or king 10's betting the turn. Yeah, this one's tough. I think we have to call sometimes. I think having a jack is really nice. I don't think a 7 interacts with many bluffs because like 6, 7. These hands probably bet the turn. 7, 5. We'll call. Oh, okay. Well, he did have 6, 7. And it didn't bet the turn. So I was wrong about a couple things, but I was right about the one thing that was important to be right about, which is that we had the best hand. So I'll take that one. I'll take being wrong about the other ones. Let's see here. 8-6 deuce, two-tone. Don't have a diamond. 1/3. I think we'll float ace 9. Turn a gut shot type thing. 6, 7, 8. We could start bluffing this hand. I prefer, again, to have a diamond. We won't be betting all of our diamond X on the flop, but I actually like maybe betting this hand now and bluffing non-diamond rivers, potentially. This is a third. I think we call again versus a third. With our can hit an ace, can hit an 8, can hit a 9 sometimes. Checks back trips, which is interesting. And he leads the ace river now, which is very strange. Okay, you got it. We will obviously have to bluff some stuff, and I think like a 9 maybe is the most logical candidates, but also a 10 is possible. We get the donk on this, which is, again, quite strange. I'm going to raise to what I've been doing here versus these nonsensical donks. Maybe, like, we can just min-click as well. That also kind of works. Our hand can definitely barrel the turn with our added flush draw equity. Queen 9, it might have to continue on this dry texture, like these decent, like, middling overcards to the 7. That can make running straight. We'll bet again here. We'll use like a 20. Let's just exploitatively use this size. This is not going to be a thing. We're going to have to like play overbets, but I'm just going to exploit, do this, and then check back river. Yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate that he hit the turn like that, but I still think our hand is definitely a bet. And we will fold now, and I guess this is a 3x, the queen 4 off this deep, not sure. Yeah, that one's a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. You have to call this hand. Flop a flush draw. So again, these are the spots I'm talking about. If you think you're going to be getting check raised a lot of these like equity hands are going to be checking back in position. I don't think I'm going to be getting check raised a ton. It's possible. He checked very fast, so like I don't know if a hand that's playing to check raise checks so quickly because they could always consider betting themselves. So I'm just going to probe for 10 or stab for 10 big blinds here. Yeah, I think this is going to perform well as like kind of an exploit. But yeah, I hope that reasoning makes sense as to why we like our betting equity that is vulnerable to being check raised. In terms of bluffs, I think we have some equity-centric hands that we can use. 5x, 4x, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10, 8. Here, we'll check. Versus one big blind, we're getting direct odds to call and try and hit a queen or a jack. Versus overbet, I really don't like having a 10 in my hand. I think a lot of the logical bluff candidates will contain a 10, 9, 10, queen 10, ace 10 sometimes. And we can just have like a king or a jack to continue with versus such a big size. I think the 8s are going to start folding for sure. So we'll get out of there. And we'll check the river. And probably just end up losing this hand a lot. But we did realize a decent amount of equity on the turn with facing such a small bet. We face a quarter, but it's hard to think of a hand that we beat. 8-9 comes in. We would definitely be bluffing, like bluff check raising here sometimes, but I think again those hands might want to have a pair, an 8, a 9. I think this one probably is just one of our first folds, honestly. And facing such a small size, we can call like maybe call it king highs, right? But queen highs, it's getting a little close. You could, but I just again like it's tough to find some of those hands that we're actually going to be winning against bluffs or otherwise. So now we will check the turn. Obviously, build our strategy around some better hands on the turn. Could continue. Actually, could consider betting this because I might only want to use a medium-ish size anyway, right? So we'll take it down there versus the 5-6. Let's go for like 10 more minutes or so. Definitely checking on the king. Trying to take our 3 to showdown. I think we just fold the 3 deuce. I even think we can start folding this pair. Let that one go. Range bet for sure. And again, of course, the size I'm going to be using on the turn is like, you could use 150% pot if you want, 2x pot if you want. And of course, like a king 10 is not really going to make it into that strategy. 3 bet sometimes. I think we'll call. Not sure. Facing a check on the river. I think our hand can just go for it now, like a normal sized bet. Of course, we'll be playing some huge bets for like our traps on the turn, which will be few, honestly. There won't be that many. Oh, one of our worst tens. I'm just gonna check the turn. So I'm just gonna bet like a normal-ish size for the other segment of our range that wants to bet like our decent king x, which is what this is, like a king that with a 10 that plays. And we'll call versus the larger size. And probably have to call a river, and lose sometimes, but we chop with like 10-8, 10-9. Versus a third, definitely calling. Yeah. So 5, 10 more mins or so. Definitely remember to open the 7-4 off, a crucial component of our ironclad strategy is the 7-4 off. Cannot forget about it. Sitting out over here. Not sure if he's finished. Oh no, back. Again, just range bet, keeping the strategy simple. This hand is good enough to use in those big bets we were talking about earlier. Just gonna go something like that. Not a great river. I still think our hand is good enough to bet. Something like this. Here, I am going to start bluffing this one for like a large, very large size. We'll do something like that. I think will be the correct size. Having a heart is nice. We can follow through on a heart. The gut shot is helpful. No clubs is probably fine because I think he c-bets a lot of clubs on the flop. Probably makes a good fold with a pair over here, so good fold. King deuce suited, do we float versus 10? 3 bets, probably not. Maybe this DP will, but I'm not sure. Not sure about that one. Need to hit the charts for sure. We're just vibing right now. We're just vibing our way through these decisions. Obviously, we can see bet very often. And here, let's just try and take these deuces to the finish line, beat some of those high card hands. I don't expect to get bluffed a lot just because this board is like visually very scary. Like we'll just have some traps, we'll have some strong hands, you know. But regardless, I think we'll check and beat like ace high a decent amount. Here on the turn, I don't like having diamonds as much as having like spades or hearts. A 10, a jack. These types of hands are going to be my first bluffs. We will have to have some trash as well, but I'm thinking maybe like a 5, 6 of spades is even better than this type of hand, right? Which kind of blocks some flop call turn folds. It's close, but we'll check. One big blind. I think he can be value betting ace high even, so we're going to have to just pay it. Yep, lose to the 4. Fold to 7 deuce. We played a little bit yesterday actually, and he lost a big pot with 7 deuce bluffing into my quads. So we have made mental notes to not play 7 deuce anymore. 7 deuce has been slain. Here we are going to let go of our 8 high. Let's go for like 5 more minutes. Versus the full 3x, we'll let go queen 3 off. We'll 3-bet sometimes. I call very quickly, but should at least consider 3-betting. We can check sometimes. On the lower paired boards, I think. But this one we'll want to bet, I think. Having a 4 is nice. Just naturally block some more 3x combos. Although it's not really a consideration because ranges are so wide. But still, I just think betting a lot is often. Or betting often is definitely fine. We'll try and show out our ace. For Doyle. Lose to the 5, totally standard. Versus 3-bet, do we float the king 10 off? This deep, it's not going to be as good for sure. I'm not sure. My gut, I just don't know this one. At 200 big blinds, my gut is telling me probably not. Especially if I don't think he's 3-betting enough, which, to be fair, like, it's really tough for a human to be 3-betting enough. Because the solver 3-bets like a whole wide variety of hands that are kind of hard to study. So especially when someone's maybe not 3-betting enough, king 10 off, 200, whatever, 15 big blinds deep that we were is not going to be as good, for sure. We'll check over here. Versus a third, even if we had spades, this is going to be a better continue than this. I think we're getting reversed sometimes when we hit our ace, because he'll do this with like ace king, ace queen, ace jack, obviously. So I'm just gonna let that one go, which is a little unfortunate. Here, could start betting, but again, I don't like merging a ton in these spots. Our hand's a very clean check call, obviously. And on this run out, I don't expect to be bluffed a ton when we check. We do block some of like the checkbacks with the 9, but I imagine those hands are gonna actually just c-bet the flop. So maybe not as many checkbacks. So maybe betting ourselves is better, and for that reason, as opposed to checking and facing a bluff or facing a bet. I think we'll just use pot and target like a baby flush, a straight even, like an 8. That's an interesting one, but don't really have much time to like go deep on them, obviously. Versus a third, we'll call our king. Top pair. Decent kicker. Or sorry, not decent kicker. Kicker that is not decent. I'm gonna check back the deuce over here. You could go either way. Let's just block. Ah, you play that trash? I have to say it. For the memes, you gotta say it. This one's tough. Hard to be bluffing after big bet, or not big bet turn, but bet turn and then every draw completes on the river. Obviously, we don't have to call our deuce X. It's just an interesting spot. I'd be curious to know what we're doing here with our range. Just continuing like those nuts that complete, like straights and flushes, or do we need other cards or other combos as well, like other hand classes? We'll do a few more hands. I can see through the window that we flopped at least 2 pair. We're going to start with a very small bet on a double Broadway texture like this. Some of the other Broadway textures you can use like pot and stuff like that. I'm just going to start small bet over here. We're doing so great on this board. This hand's so trashy, I'm okay with betting it. Face no check raise versus small. I think it's good enough to just bet again. In terms of size, we'll want to go quite large. I'm trying to think if our hand can overbet. I'm so unfamiliar playing heads up this deep. I think we'll go at least pot. We'll do that and target like I actually like betting this hand again. We have equity against the continue range with a 4. And now, is our hand good enough to shove, is the question. It probably is, but do I think I really get called by that much? I mean, he has to have like ace 4, right? Oh, that's really funny that we actually hit our hand over here. Let me think about this. Does he have any deuce X? Not really, right? Maybe king deuce of hearts? That's interesting, actually. Ace deuce of hearts is possible. Maybe we do this and fold to a shove. That would be ridiculous. Let's just do this. I'm not sure. I think a jam is when he does have like the occasional deuce X combo, like it's maybe not good, but I'll show it to him. It's one of the last hands. he had absolutely nothing. So yeah, if he found like the rebang over my river bet there, that would have been scary. Okay. Let's just because I think like the hands that will bluff will be hearts, right? So that would have been very disturbing if I faced the all in. Yeah, that could have been a nightmare actually. Now that I think about it, this hand is like so good. We can bet again. We can do whatever. Or sorry, I mean I guess we called flop. We can do whatever we want here. It's so good. I'm just gonna bet like this. And I'm already not a fan of this, like half on ace king 5 with just a 5, but it's better than like calling like 7s or something because we have more outs. We will have to call this, and we do brick on the river, which is a bit unfortunate. We had a ton of outs, and I think versus block even we just fold. It was a quick block as well. Do I want to fight for this one? I don't think this hand is... In theory, this hand might have to bluff sometimes. But I also think that we have like worse hands maybe, if that makes sense. This even queen jack comes in. Although it wouldn't take that size, but still. Oh man, some nightmare spots here right at the end. Potential nightmare spots, let me think. Yeah, whatever. I'm not going to be a hero. This one's close. Yeah, we would have lost. All right. GG's. GG's all around. Nice session. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll put this on YouTube. Yeah, let me know in the comments or message me if I have any questions or comments about stuff. We're gonna go over these hands, maybe do some like coaching about some of the stuff that some of the hands we played, some of the exploits I was thinking about. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.